I want to jump right in and talk about the United States economy because it is hanging by a thread. We've talked a lot about the Epstein files and Pete Hegseth's alleged war crimes, the war that we might start with Venezuela, but the economy is the single biggest issue, according to every poll of every American voter. Donald Trump just announced a tour around the United States in 2026 that he's doing to try and convince American voters that the economy is actually doing well and Republicans can be trusted to be voted back in the midterms. Well, that is just fundamentally incongruent with how most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, feel. Consumer sentiment is spiraling down the drain. People feel like things are getting more expensive and their wages aren't keeping up. And inflation is embedded so deeply into the US economy that we can't escape the rising prices, only doubled, only compounded by Trump's tariffs. So while Biden was president, there was some nasty inflation due to post-COVID spikes. It wasn't really truly Biden's fault, but he got blamed for it, of course. And that inflation is now embedded in the economy. As it was cooling off, as Biden was leaving office, we were at 2.9% inflation. Donald Trump placed tariffs on all countries. Now we're back. We're at 3%. We were even at 3.1%. Inflation was getting low. It was on a downward trend, and Trump screwed that up. Beyond that, the economy is just not doing well for young people like me. Unemployment is going up for young Americans. Unemployment is spiking for Black Americans, which is an early sign of a weakening economy. I want to run you all through some clips and some new data that we got. This clip from Drew Gooden, another YouTuber, really succinctly describes the current problem with the economy and how it doesn't benefit people who don't already own capital. Take a listen to this.
This is the best the economy has ever been if you already have money. If you bought a house 5 years ago, there's a chance it's already doubled in value. If you invested in the S&P 500 in 2021, you could be up as much as 80%. And that's not like saying, you'd be rich if you just bought Bitcoin in 1973. That's just the regular stock market. You didn't need to have some genius level of foresight to be able to do that. You just needed to already have a bunch of cash sitting around. And obviously for the overwhelming majority of people, that is not the case. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not thinking about the stock market. If you're in your 20s, you haven't even been working long enough to save any money to invest. You don't get to benefit from rising home equity if you don't own a house. The only thing this graph represents to you is how much further away that dream is getting. Right now, the average age of home buyers is 59 years old. What a depressing statistic. This is the problem with an economy that disproportionately benefits asset holders instead of the people still trying to earn them. Wealth grows exponentially, but wages aren't even outpacing inflation, which means if your salary hasn't been going up every year, you're effectively making less money. Meanwhile, the fastest way to make $1 million is to just already have 10 million. Leave it in an investment account for a year and congratulations, you now have $11 million. At a larger scale, this is why it feels like there's two different economies happening and they're both moving in opposite directions.
To build on top of that, a lot of Republicans ask why people like Zohran Mamdani rose to power. How could Zohran Mamdani ever rise to power when he calls himself a democratic socialism? What's up with all these socialist young kids? That is a hugely myopic view of an incredibly complex situation. Young people don't feel loyal to the current capitalistic system because they haven't had the chance to accumulate capital due to how hard it is. Like Drew was saying, if you don't own a house, you haven't accumulated any real capital, you haven't invested in the stock market, you don't own much. In fact, many young people are in debt, whether it's student debt, which I have, whether it's medical debt because the healthcare system is so messed up, or credit card debt, or any sort of debt, then you actually feel like less than loyal to the current system. And I'm not saying we should tear everything down. I've never been the type of person that thinks the entire government should be blown up just for the sake of everything. That would hurt a lot of people. But I think there are a lot of common sense changes we can make, and I'm going to continue to illustrate that throughout this video. We got more news today from More Perfect Union at the bottom. U.S. job cuts have reached 1.17 million this year, the most since 2020. We have more memes. Remember the Fall for It award again? The Trump supporters always fall for it. Every time they try to get away, the Fall for It award again gets them. Even Maria Bartiromo was forced to report this on Fox News.
Report was a market mover. Okay, yeah. Usually challenging reports I don't think move markets, but we've got another embargoed Challenger report, which is now off embargo, and it says that job cuts surpassed 1 million, the highest October total since 2003. Companies cite cost-cutting AI in October, John. This is exactly what I asked the president about.
That's right. That's the problem. Not only were announced layoffs, I think now for the entire year, the highest level since 2020. That's a recession year, but announced hirings are also down considerably. That's not a good mix, and you have to worry about jobs growth. If you don't start growing payrolls, eventually that's going to hurt the growth of consumer incomes, and in turn, consumer spending will suffer. The other thing that I want to point out is a lot of these people that are losing jobs because of AI have white-collar jobs. But as you noted, we have a lot of openings for people with skilled trades.
Absolutely.
How in the world are we going to get somebody who has a background in accounting, maybe finance, to consider becoming an auto mechanic? The CEO of Ford.
Or an electrician.
Obviously, we have seen aggressive job cuts, mainly in the AI sector. It's been affecting a lot of tech jobs, and the U.S. economy is suffering broadly for it. Trump, at this time, plots a travel blitz to tout his economy. I just want to run through some of the stats that my team and I have been collecting. Trump supporters talk a lot about egg prices, but as I pointed out in a recent CNN debate, the cost of a dozen eggs is down about 4 cents from a year ago. So yes, it spiked due to the flu, like a type of bird flu, but now it is back down 4 cents. You know what isn't down? Everything else. Chicken is up, beef is up, bread is up, overall grocery prices are at a record high, and things like orange juice are up 29%. They claim that inflation is down from record highs, but that's not true. When Biden left office, inflation was slightly lower. Trump said he would bring prices down on day one. He's done nothing to do that other than put tariffs on, then reverse course on his own tariffs. Also, at the same time, real wage growth is slower than it was when Biden left office, meaning inflation and real wage growth are about neck and neck, which is hard for the average American. You want wages to be growing faster than inflation so people feel like their dollars are going farther. To continue on some of the data, purchasing power has increased 1% since Trump got into office, but that is slower than it increased under the last 10 months of Biden. So all of the indicators that were doing well under Biden are essentially slowing down or doing worse. Trump promised to bring prices down immediately, yet after 1 year, almost a year now, we're getting there, bankruptcies are high, costs are higher, unemployment is higher, Americans are in more debt than ever before, and as the big ugly bill cuts people's health care on December 31st, cuts people's Medicaid, people will be forced to take out more debt. And when they're taking out more debt, they're digging into a deeper and deeper hole when we could have just extended the subsidies. That is a ticking time bomb for Republicans, but Trump is probably not going to talk about that during his 2026 travel blitz to try to win the midterms and convince people Republicans can be trusted. They cannot. They had 15 chances to vote for an extension of the ACA subsidies. They voted it down every single time. I'll leave it there. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one, and peace out.